Go. Hello, Eva. Good to see you. And here we are live on Substack. And I'm here today with Eva Chen. And I'm going to introduce Eva in a moment. But welcome to you who are joining us today. I see Brooke is here. Welcome, Brooke. Great to see you. And welcome to everyone who's joining. Inga is here too. Great to see you too. So whether you're joining us live or whether you're watching this recording, you're very welcome. And this conversation series is called Stories of Creative Courage. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Rachel Connor, and I am the host of this conversation series in which I talk to people from all over with all kinds of creative expression and practices and businesses and projects to really dig into what's at the heart of their creativity, a little bit about their creativity story, and really what holds them back often, because I feel that for all of us, sometimes fear gets in the way and stops us moving forward and really being fully in our authentic expression and fully in who we are and can be. And, you know, we talk about patternings and conditionings. And so this is a conversation that I have all the time with people. And it's brilliant to have Eva with us, because I know that Eva has been working on this very topic of the patternings and conditionings that can hold us back. So I am so looking forward to this conversation today. I feel like when we join forces, you know, and when we bring this stuff to the fore and when we talk about it in the open, it actually helps all of us, you know, that sharing our challenges, our fears, our resistances and our blocks, it just helps, you know, raise the collective energy and, you know, the potential and possibility of us all. So I feel like this is a really important and very valid thing to be doing when we share the truth of what goes on for us. So Eva, welcome. It's really wonderful to have you with us today. And I ask everybody who comes on the show for a bio, and yours is so beautifully and economically written that I just want to read it out. Often what I do is paraphrase, but yours is just so beautiful and fully formed that I just want to read it out because I think it says everything that we need to know. So thank you for that. It makes my job really easy. So Eva Chen helps people in midlife stop doing work that costs more than it gives. So you had me right there, you know, because I think that's so powerful. And you help people find their way into work that actually fits. And you're the founder of Second Callings, which I hope we'll hear a lot more about today. And it's where the messy in-between is exactly where we start from. So Eva, really fantastic to have you with us today. How are you doing today? It's 9 a.m. over in LA, is it?
Yes, I'm doing great. And it's funny though, you know, when, you know, we talk about burnout and a lot of people talk about how tired they are, but I think you guys all notice that like when you're doing something you're connected to, you like come alive. You know what I'm saying? Like for whatever reason, you're not tired anymore. So I feel great, even though I haven't really been sleeping because I've been in the flow, I guess, in my creative expression of this and finally coming together. And I feel like it's been like, 40 years coming. And I've just a short story. I've just always been obsessed about this topic of like, who are we? What's our calling and stuff. And it was, I think when you're an entrepreneur, if all of us are, and we have to show up. I remember the first time I was like, well, why am I acting the way I'm acting? Like, who am I? Like, why am I doing, you know what I'm saying? That was like, especially when it comes to visibility, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's when, you know, like my 20s and 30s, I kind of took the deep dive of like, you know, there was this pattern that was running the show, and deep down inside, I knew it wasn't me. It was just like, so like, and it just kept on happening and happening. And I think a lot of people just go on autopilot. You know, it sounds like so stupid when we think about it. Like who would ever be like that? But we are. And so I've taken the last few years to kind of do a deep dive into just how we develop as humans. And and I just, I think everybody is so brilliant and such a genius and has so much potential. And it's just this weird stuff that happens that keeps us from it. So anyways.
Amazing. Yeah. So much to unpack already. The thing about unique genius that really speaks to me, and I feel like there's something, isn't there, around discovering perhaps later in life, and really admitting that in our earlier years, we often wear these masks for survival because it's a way to navigate through the world, to survive, and in some cases to thrive in a certain way, in a certain context. And then when we begin to sort of unmask and take those layers off, then we begin to come to the truth of who we are, And so I just think what you do is brilliant. The whole concept of second callings is this, like, let's really get honest about who we are and what we're committed to,
Yes. Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's beautiful. It's really wonderful. So let's start off. I'd love to know more about, because you mentioned creative expression. And I think that, for so many of us, people who are watching this is what we're really into. We're really passionate about finding our creative expression, being more comfortable in our creative expression, being more pure and sort of unencumbered, not letting things get in the way. What for you does creative expression look like in your life?
It feels like play, and so for the longest time, I actually didn't even know what that felt like, because I never really got to play as a kid. My mom made me play piano like 2 hours a day. And I just, like, creative expression is just like purposeless. Like, you're in the flow. Like, there's a lot of people talk about the flow state and being in the flow where you're just, time is not relevant and you're just doing this thing that moves through you. And, my work recently has been helping people name that, so that it can have a name that, so they can know what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we have glimpses of what it feels like, but until we name it, we don't really trust it. So for me, being the very analytical thinker, I had to tear all that apart. So for me, creative expression is, I'm a person that likes to make things with my hands, whether it's design, creating new things, my earliest memory is making mud pies, things with my hands. So I'm a person that's a creative alchemy person. So in my article, I write about different play personalities. And so that's it for me, but everybody's is different. And so that's anything I do, with design or making cooking, I lose track of time and I'm so energized by it, or creating something new. And it can have all different shapes, but it's the same energy that moves through. And I always knew it, but I never embraced it as a creator. I just was in my head a lot, business school, very analytical. And I never thought of myself as more like an artist, a creator.
What a beautiful journey to go from seeing yourself as a kind of analytical business person to someone who reclaims play to let things move through you, that expression. I know for a fact that you're an amazing cook.
One time, one of our dinner parties, but yeah, it wasn't, and it actually got me out of my depression. I had a stint where I was just so stuck, like a 10-year thing. And that's how I started being in the kitchen. I just had to get up and move and create something. I was so creatively stuck, in the front of the computer, doing what I was supposed to do. I think what happens is it's in your head and you're think that creativity is a skill and you just have to work at it and, get better. And, I just stepped away and started making things, and that's kind of how, and then later on I read books about play and then I validated what I was thinking. But anyways, that's how it happened. And it's like, when we stop playing, we start living. We stop living, and that's
Mm,
part of second callings, is like this return to reclaim our youthfulness. And so many of us in midlife, had parents from the depression. We worked hard, and we didn't get so much of that. So that's why I'm passionate about it. And it's harder, when you get older, to remember what that feels like,
yeah.
because it's like no adults are allowed to play. Like, be an adult, don't be a kid, right? So
Completely, completely. And our culture doesn't validate play, it validates work and outcomes and success in that kind of way, as opposed to, I'm very struck when you talk about being in the kitchen, of like the grounded sensuality of that, your hands, and then just like working with the ingredients and all of that, that it's like you said, you used to make mud pies as a kid. It's the same thing actually, isn't it? It's just being very present with the materials that we have and seeing what comes up, seeing what emerges in that space. And so it's a very grounded, like sensory way of being present in the world, I think, which is very underestimated, I feel.
yeah, there's so many different types, and I think we think creativity is one way, but
Yeah.
there's so many ways. Like, there's the organizer type, the orchestrator. There's
Mm,
the kinesthetic person. There's one that imagines stories. And so there's not really a one size fits all. And I think we start to label what a creative person is. And
yeah.
that's where it gets, other people in trouble, because they can't resonate with that. They feel like they have to fit into that.
Absolutely. There's a kind of disconnection that goes on for a lot of people. I'm not creative because I don't fit that mold. I don't fit that identity. I'm not a writer or an artist or whatever. It was actually what I love about your understanding of and conceptualization around creativity is that it's so broad, and it's like archetypal rather
Mhm.
than a kind of doing. It's a being, so maybe that's a good time to go into telling us, Eva, about your play personalities and how they came to be, because it seems to me that this is another expression of your creativity. You've created this kind of framework. So tell us
Right.
about, yeah, yeah,
Okay. So what I created for myself was really just a solution. I mentioned, well, like, early in life, I've had some trauma. So I realized um, that this "who are you" question is very difficult, especially like when kids, people, and even just not being accepted and loved for who you are is a form of trauma, right? And so basically, you don't know. I was just couldn't connect with myself. And so I tried to find solutions with Brand from Within, with was more aligning our values with internal, external. And then Second Callings was really a return to my inner child. And so what I look at picture, it's really a union between my inner child, which includes my shadow, my genius, all the things that I needed as a child. Now I give to myself. And
mm,
so, what I've created is kind of like the foundation before you can discover and express what you want. Is, we have all these triggers and fears and what people think. And I was just stuck there because I had probably like my mother and father talking to me all the time. And it wasn't really me, it was them. I mean, they're great and everything like that, but that's what happens when we're kids, we're in our subconscious. And I needed, I studied so many things, from neuroscience, rewiring, mindset, beliefs, but when it's like the system, we have our systems, which are nervous system, our learned system, our conditioning, our internal system, and it was just like, now I created this union merging between my inner child and me. And so we're like a team. I know it sounds crazy, but
no.
and yeah, and it just so like it's that safety to be myself
Yeah,
again, and
yeah,
to
yeah.
reconnect, because I didn't know who I was, because it's in the brain. When you have trauma, you disconnect from yourself. You don't know who you are. There's
Mm,
just you've done that to protect yourself. So as an adult, I had to work on that. And it was hard. There was a time of grieving, like, when I just like cried. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you just feel so much for that, like, little girl, little boy, or whoever.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think, well, two things. First of all, safety is paramount, I think. We have to develop the capacity to feel safe in order to feel that we can express, even if we don't express it into the world, like just for ourselves. So safety, I completely agree. But the second thing is, and I think this is not really talked about in the realm of creativity either, the grief that you've just named, like the grief for the unlived life. It's the state of being that we couldn't access as a child, as you say. It's as an adult, it may be the project or the whatever it is that we want to work on that we can't, because we feel like we're stuck in a particular identity and the people around us won't recognize or accept us if we begin to work on that thing or make it visible or bring it to the world. And I see this so often with people I speak to as well, that grief, often what happens is that the grief becomes so, it gets so big that then it just can't be ignored anymore. And often it's at that point that people say, okay, I have to change something has to change here. So I think grief is really unnamed in this field, so I'm so glad that you name it, because I think it's important. And then we, from there we can move to a place of acceptance, and then from there we can then begin to reclaim these parts of ourselves that want to create and show up and have fun, be in flow and connect with others and have fun with others, and all those things.
Yes, definitely. And it's much more fun as an adult. I mean, as a kid, you just, it's we have more ability, we have more authorship now. So it's like, you have maturity and wisdom and the compassion of yourself, your higher self. But then you have, your inner child that is like, where your genius is and play, keeps things fun, adventure. And it's really just that relationship and giving yourself what you need a little bit. It's almost like reparenting.
So tell us about how you would support people then who are coming. So say someone comes and says, oh, I want to kind of rediscover my creative joy, my expression, my playfulness. Like how can you help them and support them through second callings in the work and the research that you've done so far?
Well, the new part that is exciting for me is this more the shadow, the inner child work, which is, I have a framework that I created, and it's layers, and so it's a combination of what I worked on before, which was branding, which was discovering and expressing your creative talent, but the foundation of it is the healing and the safety of this union between your inner child and all that, and with your higher self, and really claiming sovereignty and authorship. So it's connecting with your inner child, and then aligning the both of you together. And then the rediscovery part is all about your natural intelligences, and how they work in the context of your values in midlife. They shift, and then your unique way of expressing it, which is the play. And so that's kind of the little framework. And oh shoot. Oh, sorry. I have to touch my computer because it went off. So that's kind of the framework that I birthed as my creative alchemist person. And I'm excited to get it out there. So I was denying for a very long time this healer, spiritual part of myself. I probably spent 80% of my life in that field, but I never did it as part of my work. Say that I am, in the healing field was just something I could not give myself permission for. So that's what's exciting about this second callings.
Oh, I love this. Maybe we can go there then to that story, if that's okay. what happened to help you embrace that healer spiritual part of yourself? Like, did anything happen? Like, how did you get from avoiding that, ignoring it, not accepting it, into embracing it and helping it shape the work that you do now?
That's a great question. A long time. I had to do like a lot of validation and like checking of things, like even if something crazy as astrology, like I'm in the 12th house, like I'm all about spirituality, like all these things. Um, so it wasn't, I mean, it was thanks to, like in our Sacred Growth Club, Phil and Carolina, because I was so doubtful about it. I was like, can I just share with you what I'm thinking and just reflect back if I'm just crazy. Like I was totally fine to just let go of it just a few months ago. Like I was just, this was like a circling and a back and forth for years. I mean, I had my first rendition of this website like 5 years ago, and I never got it out. And that's how much resistance I had for it. So I really appreciate them to like give me the space and push to go. And then I got on Substack, which has been great because it's such more of a nurturing community. I think if I was like on LinkedIn and I don't know, I just had this fear that people thought I was crazy. And just didn't get it. Like I had like that fear, like, when I talk about it, people wouldn't understand.
I'm nodding, not because I think you're crazy, because I recognize that. And again, I recognize it from so many people. Like I'm an analytical person. Like, how can I talk about spirituality? Like people won't accept me. They won't, they won't take me seriously, and when we kind of have our professional identities forged on that analytical self, that's, being taken seriously, it's really hard, I think. First of all, shout out to Phil and Carolina who are here and listening. And yeah, thank you for the work that you do. It speaks to me very powerfully of the fact that often it really helps to be seen by other people and to have who we really are, like mirrored back to us, so that we can really see ourselves in full unique genius, as you said earlier in the conversation. I feel like that's so invaluable because often we don't see our own unique genius. And I also I feel I have a lot of these conversations as well about, our essence. I call it essence in the work that I do. It's the same thing. Like, we're so it's so part of us that we don't see it for ourselves, and it takes a collective effort and conversation and a mirroring and reflection for us to be able to really receive it and then to act and create from that place. And then, it's not like the fear and the resistance doesn't still get in the way, but we're more able to see our own genius, and then we can, create forms that are an expression of that uniqueness. So it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Like the environment, being in the right definitely helps. And then your own internal, being aware and giving yourself what you need to feel safe, and then being in the right environment. It's so important. And so many people have that. And that's why I think the transition part, it really needs like a whole village of people, I feel like, to navigate the messy middle. Not just like a certain type of coach or a strategist telling you what to do. It really, it's like a whole village of people. So that's where this is great to collaborate with people and to meet people and find out, like what people need to get through their transition. And most of it is just like the steadiness, and just like having a different system to rely on, and that just changes your life for the better.
So talk to me about the transition then, because I'm curious about how that shows up for people. How, is it like a sudden thing, like, people kind of leave their jobs or careers, like, or is it a more gradual evolutionary way of kind of moving into a space that they want to occupy and who they want to be? Yeah,
that's a great question. I think it shows up differently for everybody, but I do know that like 80% of us are in some type of transition at any point in our life.
Mm.
And it's often really, really painful for people, and people have their own way. Some people will just do a drastic thing because it's been building up so much of their life and just blow up their life and just, do something drastic. And other people are in that resistance. And that's where the assessment, helps to define, kind of what your childhood patterning is that chose you before you didn't choose it, kind of thing. And that's kind of like running and like bossing you around still. And so, but yeah, it takes, I feel like a transition takes time. But it's because you have to like be this totally different identity. And especially in midlife, a lot of people might have had accidental jobs and kids, and they've been in autopilot for forever. And then you wake up one day and you're like, it's a scary feeling. And you don't even know where to start. So it takes like a very special kind of space and container for that.
So the assessment, tell us about that, because that sounds fascinating.
Okay, well, it's actually based on a book that I read. Somebody gave me this book called it's very good. It's like based on different patterns of immature parents, and like the different types of parents. And also it's based on trauma and the biology of belief and neuroscience. And so there's like based on how we were parented. And this is nothing against parents. Like it just happens. Like my sister and I are completely different, two different types. And now that I see her type, I'm much more like I have so much more empathy for her, and things like that. But yeah, there's 4 different types of patterns, and they kind of run in the background, and they're driven by different things. Like, for instance, the achiever one is like always wanting to prove love. Like some are like driven for love, and then other ones are driven by fear and making a mistake, and other ones are driven by like have to follow the rules and safety, like something bad is going to happen. And other ones are like, lone wolf. You have to do everything yourself. You can't depend on other people. So you can see how, like, if you were gonna had a big dream and a big vision, that you couldn't operate like that anymore.
Yeah.
Creatively express yourself.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking to, is it reminds me of what I call survival mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
So the patternings that we inherit from our parents or from education system or whatever, our culture, really shapes how we respond to everything around us, and particularly to creativity and play. That we're driven by fear, or like the lone wolf part. Like I'd say I don't trust anyone to help me. I'm just going to do it on my own. I mean, I completely recognize myself in that one as well.
We have like all like parts of all of them, but one really kind of drives the show, and then there's one, the rest. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I see myself doing it all the time. Like I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I've missed opportunities because it takes me so long to get anything done. And I don't like to do things not the best. And it sounds really egotistical, but like, yeah. And even with my cooking, like I'm always like, oh, this is, off here, there, whatever. It's that critical, and so I really tried to let go of that. And even in painting, like in your house challenge, like I just keep on buying art supplies. They're collecting so much dust, and I just won't do it because I'm the worst one. Yeah.
Yeah. So for context, I ran this challenge last month, and Eva did the challenge, and the challenge was to draw your creative house, so your kind of creativity and your life as though it were a house. And so it surfaced lots of things, including the room that we never go into. And for Eva, it was like there were lots of art supplies that were never used, and it was this constant stalling and procrastination because of fear, because of the perfectionism, I suppose. So that's what you're speaking to there. And I think a lot of the people who are watching this can probably relate to some of that. We have new people joining, so hello to Tiffany and Bill and Kate. Really great to have you with us. And today I'm talking to Eva Chen about play and about play personalities. So you've mentioned some of them as we've gone along. I'd love to know a little bit more about what kind of play personalities we
Oh
have.
yes, and I have the article I just spit out or the wrote today that has it. But they're all listed in my article. There's the one that likes to organize and direct things. There's the collector, like my mom. She's 80, and every day she comes so alive, and I just couldn't like understand why, but she loves thrifting and collecting and finding these like treasures, but she just loves it. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's her play. She just loves collecting. And so this is based on decades of work by a neuroscientist named Stuart Brown. And he came just observing people. He came up with these different play personalities. And it's really like what you're doing, like how you express it. Like you could be the networker, the storyteller, like with imagination. I'm the creator. I like to make things with my hands. So there's 8 different types in my article, and I'm sure you'll resonate with one of them. But it's not about. It's like I can do it through cooking, and I also like sensing what people need and making something nourishing for them is in the kitchen, and also here. Like I like with Brand from Within, I always had to create something from scratch. I just always have to make my life really difficult that way. So I love to create things. And so it shows up in different mediums.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I can see how people taking the assessment, and I hope I've linked the article in the chat there, but I also put it in the show notes as well when I post the replay to this conversation, so people can go and check it out and kind of see. I can see how taking the assessment would really be helpful potentially in kind of revealing, what gets in the way of creativity, but also what the particular play personality is, as in, the kind of essence of who you are as a creative. So what would you then do with that information, Eva? Once people collect that, like what's the next step really to moving forward with creativity?
Well, it's about the medium. So that's what makes you come alive, whether it's cooking or creating something, design, and just do more of that. I mean, it's like, especially when we're in adults, like play is tied to fulfillment. Play, like if we stop playing, we're dying. And so it's more important as we get older, and even just doing what we love. It's so important because there has to be so much work and discipline around it. So it's important to feel, I mean, obviously there's going to be things that we don't like to do, but the majority of it needs to be in that zone where this is how we kind of lights us up. And so just being aware of it, what I was saying is just be able to name things. That way it's concrete. And even with the intelligences, there's, we can talk about that in another show. There's different intelligences way beyond just math and science, like one of mine is introspect, so you just start pulling these threads, and then they're in the context of your values and what's important to you. And it's all about the media. How do you want to apply this? How do I make this job where I'm doing this activity of play that comes up again and again,
Yeah. So the way you talk about it sounds as if it really helps to clarify, to help make decisions, to kind of reduce or subtract the things that aren't kind of lighting us up, and then to bring in more of what brings us alive and what makes us joyful and engage with play.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Beautiful.
exactly.
Love it. I love it. I can't wait to take this assessment.
Oh, the assessment is about what keeps us stuck, but the clay types is interesting. You just kind of resonate with one of them. But if people want, I have questions that help you too. So maybe I'll give you the questions. That could be an assessment, but it's easy to just read the assessment. But that's part of the expression part. So there's the natural intelligence, the discovery of it, and then how do you want to express it through play? You know, it's a unique expression of it. So it's kind of a framework. I think I need my Virgo mind. I need like to organize things step by step. So that's kind of like the step-by-step framework, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, and it's evolving also. I mean, this is very new, as you said. So, who knows where it's going to go. But I love the framework. I mean, anything that kind of centers play and expression is just, it's got to be helpful to the human race, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
yeah.
And the big part of that is this inner child. I think, that's why like I look at pictures of my inner child because we have to connect with that person. Like I was so disconnected from her. Like I just didn't even remember, and just like, I asked my mom and she doesn't remember either. Like, what was I like as a kid? Like, I don't, cause that was the real me. I mean, the real you really is like before 7. I mean, we're still in like a beta brain theta state. And so that's why things that are said to us at an early age are like programming. So that's why I have the childhood pattern assessment.
Yeah, amazing. Well, like you say, there's like more to say, and there's probably enough material here for another show. And I think we might do a return version of this where, we do a kind of you interview me and there's more to talk about. I think there are lots of intersections. I really relate to what you're saying about healing and spirituality, because I feel like this too is my story, this kind of opening to, oh, actually I'm here to, to kind of facilitate healing for people around this stuff. And so I really love that, you name that, and it's a kind of vulnerable thing to name. So I appreciate
there's a facilitator one in the play thing. So I'm not, so we all have different skills and it's really like a coming together. Like I said, I think it's a beautiful thing when we can recognize it in each other.
Absolutely. So 2 things. What's next for Eva? Where are you going next with all of this? And then where do we find you on, where can we kind of find out about your stuff? Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm just like on Substack. I'm here. I just released the assessment. I have other things that I'll be putting out soon, but you can always do a discovery call with me and we can begin to connect the dots. With like Brand from Within, it was like inner and outer. Now this is like the inner and the inner with the inner child and then your adult self. So it's like just, always going like a layer deeper for me. But just for me to, I love it's the gift, one of my gifts is just being able to see what that is in somebody, and kind of connect the dots of it. And so, and then the healing. And so that's what was happening with my branding clients. I could see them getting stuck and it wasn't about the strategy. It was something else.
Yeah. Amazing. So we can find you on Substack. And as Inga says, we love your enthusiasm. It's wonderful. You're so passionate about the work you do, which is just fantastic. We find you on Substack. People can book a discovery call. So Eva, send me the link and I will put that in the show notes as well, so people can click on that. And then what's next then? Let's kind of, what do you see in the future? Like what's possible? What's the potential here for you and your business?
Like I was saying, I really think it takes like a village. And so it would be really great I would love to launch like a school, like a second calling school where as adults, we can all go back and redo our childhood again and play and have adventure and support each other. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about, because I think it's so needed. There's these very academic schools like at Stanford and, where it's more just like leadership, but nothing. And then, people get there and they just have an identity crisis because they need to do so much healing. And so there's really not any of this in the academic setting. So I've been thinking about that because I feel like it's really needed in like transitions or anything like that to kind of deprogram and just, an opportunity to do some of that healing work.
Yeah, fantastic. Eva, thank you so much for talking to me today. I think you're doing amazing work in the world. You really are. It's been fascinating to hear a little bit more. I've heard you talk about it a little bit in the community that we're in, but it's so good to have this opportunity to listen to you in more detail and to be able to like really unpack, the programming and the play personalities and the essence. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, last thing, I just, because we're on, like, I don't know, maybe not all of us are in midlife, but it's like, I see so many people getting older and just saying like, oh, I can't do this, I'm old. Like, it's just, it's just a tragedy because we're none of us are dead yet. So I don't know why people say that.
Absolutely. Really living life fully and completely and to the extent that we can in the time that we have. Yeah, whatever our age, so absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely here for that. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's joining us here today as well. Really great to have your company. And thank you to everyone who's watching this back on the recording as well. Eva, go well with the rest of your day. And I can't wait to see what's coming next, with your business and your projects. So yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. See you again.